Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyber Monday. With me, as always, is the most interesting man in cybersecurity today, none other than Dominic Vogel. Dominic, before you respond to that, who do we have in the hot seat today?
So you always surprise me with whatever adjectives you somehow pull out in there, Christian. Today we have Mike Knapp, who is, I think, one of the most amazing business coaches out there. And he's just such an interesting character to talk to. I've known him for years, and I consider him a friend. So I think he's going to be a really interesting person for us to chat with, and I think for our viewers and listeners to just soak in all the amazing, interesting tidbits he has to say.
Completely agree. Looking forward to it. So I'm going to invite Mike in, and we'll be right back.
Mike, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to chat with Christian and I, and we're really looking forward to the convo.
Oh, thank you. This is fantastic. I love talking with you. We've had so many great lunches talking about the security world.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
I'm just glad people can now watch it.
It's so good to have you. So first question out of the gate. Business owners often struggle with being the business or working in the business. So can you tell us the difference between working in the business versus working on the business?
Absolutely. So my first entrepreneurial voyage, I started
a long time ago.
when I had hair. I started as an IT consultant.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, I was a victim of my own success. I got my first client. I got my first 10. I got my first 20. I hired staff. Built up. And the whole time was running like mad, so busy taking care of all of the issues, all of the clients, all of that stuff that fills the day, the busyness, that I never had time to, and never made the time to actually look at how to build a business that could scale.
Right.
In the end, the business was all about me. It didn't matter I had staff. It didn't matter that revenues were great and it was profitable. It was all about me, and it was a trap because I was only working in the business and never on the business. In the small business space, and to some extent the mid-business space, this is a trap that almost every business owner runs into. They are the entrepreneur, the visionary. They have the idea, they build it, but it stays around them. Right. They don't know how to build the right systems and processes to be able to start letting go, free up the time from all those operational issues so they can actually focus on building a business that has a life of its own. And that is where the real value starts to come in, and where they can go from being a $1 million or $2 million business to a 10 to a 20 to 30. Scale. And the ultimate part of that scale is building the business right. That means you have to work on the business instead of in the business.
So would you say that's a good description of your role, is just to help companies scale?
That's absolutely. We talk about titles like business growth coach, and it's unfortunate because coach is something that is somewhat,
it's a cliche,
it's
maybe.
It's cliched, yes. Really, my job is to help business owners and their leadership teams build the most amazing business to work in that can grow and scale to achieve their goals. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a facilitator, and every now and then I switch hats, roll up my sleeves, and say, okay, no, this is how you take care of that specific piece of it.
Sounds awesome.
So, and what's I find really interesting, so we're talking about that whole notion of businesses struggling to grow, and one of the points that you talked on there is with founders or CEOs who are just trying to do everything. Obviously, that is one blocking path towards growth. What are some other factors that you see with businesses that struggle to grow? What are some of the sort of red flags?
There's
probably a lot.
So the first one is always with the owner, with the founder, with the person running the business.
Right.
And if they're not growing, their business won't grow.
Right.
If they're not open-minded to change, their business won't grow. From there, we always start with the people. Do they have the right people in place doing the right things? Are they in the right seats? Because often what ends up happening, especially if we look at businesses that are a little bit older, is they've built a team and everyone plateaus. And just like the owner who is no longer learning and growing, the team around them isn't learning and growing.
Right.
And you have to start changing that mindset. Looking forward from, but we've always done it this way, to how can we do it better?
Right.
But there's so many other factors. I mean, there's everything from, is your strategy clear and does it make sense and does everyone get it? To, do you have the right product?
Right.
Are you selling the product well?
Right.
Are you thinking way out there?
Yeah.
Or are you looking at your feet?
Right.
You know, I race cars as a hobby, so I use that as a metaphor a lot. When you start racing a car,
Yeah.
you look at a couple feet in front of the bumper,
Yeah.
and you'll never get fast that way because you're always reacting to the next corner. You're always just barely one step ahead.
Right. Right.
Well, when you can actually step out of the business,
Yeah.
you take that whole leadership team out,
Yeah.
have them be open-minded and say, okay,
Yeah.
let's look at 3 years from now. What can you guys be? You have them think big. Come up with some goals, and then we start breaking it down. What's the key strategy you need to do this?
Yeah.
Who are you going to sell that product to?
Yeah.
Who are the people you need in place? What are the steps along the way? And you break it down and break it down and break it down. To the point where you're creating agile style 1 week sprints from it.
Yeah.
Now they have something they can do.
Right.
It's interesting you say looking 3 years down the road because I've always thought 5 years. That's been the number.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing the 3 year thing. So I'm starting to ask myself some 3 year questions now.
Yeah.
I don't know where does that come from?
I have 3 planning horizons I look at.
Okay.
The first is your big, hairy, audacious goal based on Jim Collins' great research.
Right.
That one is something so big that you're not quite sure you can do it. And it's between 10 and 30 years out. You don't know what the market's going to be.
Right.
And you look at our world, it's changed so much in the last decade.
Yeah.
There's no way, Dom, you could have planned your career 10 years ago.
Very true.
But for a business, we can take a look at something like, if they went along a path from their purpose
Yep.
and added some I'm not sure factor in,
Yeah.
you can come up with something that's feasible.
Yeah.
One of my clients, they're a professional services firm. We discovered that and worked through, and their core purpose is about the impact they're going to make to the BC economy.
Right.
And they make a really great one. It's awesome.
Yeah.
When we started looking at big planning horizons, the owner's like, 10 years doesn't matter. Let's just look at a year. We started working through it and figuring it out. They couldn't believe what we came up with for their big, hairy, audacious goal. They're going to make more than $200 million of impact to the BC economy within 10 years. We put that up in big letters up on the wall.
Yeah.
I guess numbers. And revealed it to the team. Said, guys, over the next 10 years, we don't know how we're going to do this, but we are going to do $200 million of impact. How inspirational is that for the team around them? The team steps up immediately. They're like, yeah, I want to be part of that. Especially the millennials.
Yes.
Who want to be part of something that's around purpose.
Yes.
That's your 10-year vision.
So that's the big.
The big giant one.
Yeah.
Now, again, I can't develop a strategy necessarily for that because I don't know what the market's going to be in 10 years. The market and the world is changing so fast.
Yeah.
In the 80s, sure, you do a 5 and a 10-year plan and it's relatively stable.
Right. Right.
Today, everything changes incredibly quickly.
Yes.
Mike Tyson has a great quote. I consider him one of the epitomes of wisdom once. And he says, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
I've talked to a number of companies that create that 5-year plan,
Yeah.
and they walk down the path.
Yeah.
And when they hit 5 years,
Yeah.
they look around and they go, but the market shifted at year 2.
Right.
And we're now 3 years behind.
Right.
With the market shifting so quickly, even when we create a 3-year plan, we have to recognize that every quarter and every year we have to see where that shift has gone.
Yeah.
3 years is a planning horizon that people can understand.
Right.
They can picture 3 years from now.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost anyone can picture, in 3 years, I do 10 million in revenue now. Okay, I want to do 20 million.
Yeah.
And the market's not going to shift dramatically. There may be some new technologies,
Sure.
some new dependencies, but
Yeah.
we can course adjust.
Yeah.
When you start going any further than that, it's too far. But then we take that 3 year and we break it down into 1 year. What do we have to focus on to make the 3 year happen over the next year?
Right.
And then we break it down into little pieces that become more and more tactical so you can actually execute on that vision.
So from vision and strategy down to the tactical next steps.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
And you know, laying this out, you know, in terms of again those vision, goal, strategy. What's the importance, or how important is sort of understated importance, I suppose, is execution? You know, a lot of people have that grand vision, will have these big plans or strategy, but then fail at the execution. Well, why is that, and what can sort of business leaders understand about the importance of execution?
Execution is everything. Without it, your strategy is useless. It ends up being, I love to call it spots. Strategic plan on top shelf. Just gathers dust, and it's absolutely useless. I've read a couple of studies, one from Harvard Business Review, another one from the PMI, that actually say it's between 70 and 90% of strategic plans fail to execute.
Wow, that high, wow.
Yeah. And the reasons, there's a significant number of reasons for it, especially because they're talking enterprise in some of those cases.
Yeah.
But some of it is that the strategic plan is built in isolation.
Right.
Others is, you don't get buy-in and the change management throughout the organization. The vision is unclear, or the strategy is just silly. And you walk 5 years down and it doesn't make sense. But in the end, what a lot of it boils down to is the big disconnect, the gap that you need to bridge between the thinking and the execution plan. It's one of the reasons why the framework that I work with builds them together. We developed a strategy in that agile style format, so we're constantly refining it.
Yeah.
But then along the way, every single time we build the execution plan for that quarter, to be able to tie it right back in. And then we coach and teach accountability from the start. I even do that before the first strategy day, because until you have that ability to execute, you're wasting your money on building a good strategy.
Right.
So let's work on execution skills.
Yeah.
It's almost like, there are a lot of good ideas out there and not a lot of execution in proportion to that. So it's like, it's better to have execution on an average idea than to just have this wonderful, the best business plan ever, the best vision, and do nothing about it.
Completely agree. But that best business plan ends up sitting on the shelf. And what too many people do is they come up with too many ideas. And they focus on too many things. And like you and I have had those conversations where 1,000 ideas come out of my head. And my team is consistently frustrated with, we'll do our strategy session, and we have a parking lot for ideas. And I'll put 14 new ideas up for the quarter. And that's important. But then taking a look at those and going, which one aligns best with our strategy?
Right.
Which ones are the highest priority and can have the biggest impact on helping us achieve our goal and our BHAG? Then breaking that one down and exactly how we're going to execute, and then limiting ourselves and telling Mike to shut up. It's vitally important.
The something I've always I remember was a term that I remember hearing from you, this term unconsulting, and consultants as a whole, that there's often some dirty or negative connotation around it. We have to use a consultant. There's no shortage of consultant jokes. What in your mind, what does the term unconsulting mean, and how is that important from a differentiation point of view?
One of my favorite consulting jokes is that a consultant is the person who, when you ask them a time, will grab your watch and then tell you how to read it. There's so many negative connotations around consulting. That when we created Incrementa, we tried to think about all the ways that we were unique and different.
Right.
And that became the term unconsulting. For us, the first thing is that anything that you do, any company you go into, you first go in with that full curiosity, and you ask a ton of questions. Your answer is, well, good consultants do that too. But our next step isn't just to go and solve the problem. That's not necessarily our job. Our next step is to help the company solve the problem for themselves. By helping them develop the skills and teaching them the tools they need to execute for themselves, they come out of it in a far better place, and the change is sustainable.
Right.
Absolutely, there's times where they can't do it themselves. And we roll up our sleeves and we do it. But great consultants or unconsultants should take the idea of being a teacher and a mentor and a coach first. and help take that brilliance out of the company and develop it. You know, because there's only so many times you can go in and lecture them on a vulnerability or an issue or a process problem that's created a big security gap.
Right.
But if you can go in them and teach them so they understand it, so they can execute on it for themselves, it's a change that really can transform the business. And that's what we wanted to focus on when we created Unconsulting. So all of our processes, it's really about how can we make the change sustainable, and so they don't need us again.
And that's really powerful, you know. And one of the things which somewhat of a segue to my next question is it's something which I know you're a big advocate for, is the whole notion of meditation and mindfulness, being able, not just from a personal perspective, but also for professional people to be able to help them be better at their job or their role. How important is meditation in this sort of dynamic, crazy, fun-filled world for people to slow down and try to embrace something like meditation?
I almost think slow down is the wrong term. Meditation lets you speed up. So you're right. There's so much happening, so much distraction. You know, if I read another book on how much distraction there is, I'll probably drive myself nuts. But there's so much happening in this world, and so much stress, and so much change, that our mind isn't able to process it all. It gets stressed, and we feel it, and we take it home into our personal lives, and we disconnect from everything around us because of it. Taking just a little bit of time to build up a strong mind is one of the most important things anyone can do in their career. And, you know, once upon a time, I read an article probably last week, about how important it was for leaders to do meditation.
Right.
And I had this immediate frustration with it, because this isn't something that's reserved for leadership.
Right.
Meditation develops a strong mind. It develops resilience. So the stresses of the world roll off your back instead of accumulating. It allows you to start feeling more connected to the people around you, and creates empathy in a world where empathy is massively lacking. Connection is massively lacking right now. Meditation is an amazing tool set to start building that up.
Yes.
You know, I go out, like you, I'm a public speaker. I love being in front of an audience. I'm not the comedian you are, but
You're far more endearing than me, though.
but I have a much better
probably
hair.
a lot more likable, maybe.
And my last talk, you know, it was in front of about 200, you know, new graduates, and they asked, "How do you handle going up in front of a stage?" A strong mind means you can control the only thing in the universe you can control. Yourself. Your mind. I can't even control my body half the time, but I can control my mind. I can stay calm in the face of adversity. Meditation is like weight training for your body, except for your, it's doing it for your mind. So it's
awesome.
in my mind, it's absolutely vital that everyone has some sort of that mindfulness meditation practice, no matter what it is.
Yeah, switching gears for a moment, like that's such a well-rounded, you know, approach to life and business. You know, not a topic that we normally cover, but switching gears kind of to the more familiar cyber risk picture. You know, your process, and we're kind of getting short on time, but I wanted to cover more aspects, but let's get into the risk aspect of it. What risks do you look at when you're taking your clients through this process? What are the categories?
Okay, so when we're off doing strategic planning, when we're actually looking at the business and taking that 50,000 foot view and looking down and saying, okay, what's working, what's not? There's a ton of different places you want to look. If you think of your business like a puzzle, most businesses have some of the pieces out of order. Some of them, they've been forced together, they don't quite fit right. You know, and every one of those pieces is a system. It might be your strategic systems. It might be your people and talent systems. They all come together. Initially, when we start talking risk management, everyone goes to the strategic risk. Some people go to the talent and people risks, and those are good. But you have to dive a little bit deeper. When you start breaking up to the different areas of the business, we take a look at the top functional areas of the business. And you want to do risk analysis at each level. And as you guys know, I come from the IT strategy world. I did cyber for years and years and years, and jumped up and down on top of chairs yelling about how important IT risk is. We're in an era where technology will either accelerate your business or can kill your business. And we've seen that through the risks associated with technology, and especially in the cyberspace. Dom, do you know the number offhand of the percentage of businesses that shut down after a ransomware attack?
I see different numbers anywhere between 20
That's
to
what you
60%.
It's scary.
Yeah.
So as you're developing your strategy and recognizing that technology can make things go faster,
Yes.
it can improve your processes. You can go and use ERP software and CRM and all of these tools to make your business go great.
Yeah.
You have to look at that in depth, the risks around your technology approach. And cyber is one of the biggest ones out there. It's really a hard one for some leadership teams to grasp because it's overwhelming and it's so scary and pervasive. And I've talked to literally hundreds of business leaders about cyber risk, and some of them, they're overwhelmed. And so they really need to go out and talk to experts who aren't there to sell them something. They're instead there to educate and help them come up with the right strategy that's appropriate for their business and their investment in technology.
I imagine in the minds of the businesses that you work with and the business owners, they're not motivated by risk management. It doesn't excite them as much as it excites all of us at this table, because you're also helping them with growth as well.
Yes.
I think we always talk about it as being a business enabler. How can you manage your risks in a way that you can make better decisions, that you can show your clients that you are taking extra precautions, looking after the personal information and the intangible assets of the business? How do you bridge that gap between, okay, you're helping them grow, but you're also helping them manage risks? It's usually not one person that handles all of that. How do you kind of reconcile, put all that together?
So we want to make sure that we wear different hats when we're doing strategic thinking. We want to be able to look at it from all sorts of different sides. It's like psychologically speaking, you sit there and say, well, your building might light on fire. Most people ignore you, especially when you say, well, you could make more money. Well, I'll go make more money.
Right.
Interestingly, in the change management world, if you tell somebody they can make more money, they'll jump to that first. But if you tell somebody that you're going to take it away after they make it, that's a bigger hit for people. So there's always some amount of that. But really, when you're doing your risk management process, we want to just simply make sure that all of the right guardrails are in place. Here's the decision we want to make. We want to do X, Y, Z. We're going to launch this product. Around the table, you need somebody from every different area of the business who has a different viewpoint, who can try to shoot a hole in it.
Right.
You want to create the trust to have that positive conflict in the leadership team so that your IT leader is at the table and can say, oh, it's fabulous. We can use this technology to make that go faster, but we have to be careful about such and such.
Right.
In the end, most business leaders don't think of it this way, but they are the custodians of so much information about their clients, about their company, about their people. And they have to take that role of custodian really seriously. But most people aren't educated to understand that. And a lot of the material out there is very negatively connotated. They take it from a your company will die context instead of, these are risks that you need to understand because this is what you're accountable for. Here's how we can make it easy.
It's very well said.
Very well said, yeah. Mike, Trish and I are just so thankful for you taking time out to chat with us. Like, that was a really engaging, really interesting conversation, and hopefully you'd like to join us again in the future.
Absolutely. This is fun, and I'm always happy to talk with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Mike. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christian and I will be back momentarily to wrap things up for the show.
Dominic, really enjoyed that multifaceted conversation there with Mike. so many good gems to mine from that. I think for me, and the curiosity came kind of in the middle, talking about this idea of the 3-year horizon. So he talked about the 10-year, the 3-year, and then the 1 year, because I'm traditionally thinking about 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's because I'm a child of the 80s. I think that's my problem. What did you mainly get? Like, what was your main takeaway?
I mean, to your point, there's so many great layers to what Mike was saying. You could there's so much information to mine, but I think what really stood out for me was this whole notion of, for leaders to be able to be better at what they do, the whole notion of mindfulness, and how taking that time to be more mindful and leveraging that through meditation, be able to even become more empathetic. And like Mike was saying, empathy is I think it's a very much an underserved quality right now, but it's a quality for those who have it. And you see businesses thrive with those that have an empathetic leadership structure. So I think that was really, really interesting, just for people to remember that it's not just all about chasing the money. There's ways to train your mind to be more mentally resilient, which is another theme that Mike mentioned.
Times are changing.
Times are changing, yeah. It's not the 80s anymore.
I'm having a hard time letting go.
I miss the 90s. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for watching. You can check out our other podcasts on conversationsthatmatter.tv, or you can see our Cyber Monday playlist on Conversations That Matter's YouTube channel, also Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will see you next Monday.